Better opportunity to share and everybody gets involved. An example is, perhaps someone making a presentation can't give you the whole picture, and you maybe sometimes you're scared to ask the question in front of 300 or 400 people. Here is a chance to have those discussions and ask those questions. So the round tables that are available have just been taken off my screen. So number one is stop talking and start doing. I'm not sure if that's an instruction to me or the name of the round table, but stop talking and start doing. Efficiency, innovation and cooperation. That's round table number one, so you can see the numbers. Round table number two is key theft, vandalism and claims. So that's looking at security issues, particularly perhaps from a finished vehicle perspective. The trend of increased local part sourcing for OEMs in Mexico. A session on emergency freight, or a think tank on emergency freight and premium freight. Number 5 is a very nice number. There it is. Number 5 is reducing packaging costs, something that was discussed quite a bit yesterday. So you can drill deep a little bit further into that. Number 6 is cross-border, looking at, again, some of the issues we discussed today on cross-border issues. Number 7 is cultural considerations for success in Mexico. We've got Japanese companies here, Korean companies here, German companies here, Mexican companies, US companies, and one guy from Cyprus. So that can help you understand the cultural considerations of working in automotive and automotive logistics in Mexico. So please choose the round table of your choice. It's very free, it's very open, you can come and move and so on, but join the round table, join the discussions. It's very hard to describe until you actually join the round table. I think an easy way of kind of saying it is that the first few minutes can be a little bit awkward and you're wondering, what's going to happen. I can assure you, at the end of the round table in an hour's time, I won't be able to stop you talking because of the value of the conversations you're having. So please join the round tables of your choice. You can see the options coming up on the screen, and you can combine the tables if that's what you prefer to do. But enjoy the hour, and we'll hear the conclusions and roundups from the different round tables at the end. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, señor, no señor, señorinas. I'm afraid your time's up. What we try to do with the think tanks, we give you enough time to get deep into a conversation and then we stop you, which is what we've obviously tried to achieve here. So what we want to do for the next 15 minutes until the coffee break, I'd like to, and perhaps I never told some of you, but I'm putting on you now. I'm going to go around the round table and choose or find the leader or head of the round table to give us a very brief summary of what you discussed on your table, because there was some great tables here, and I know some of you wanted to join different tables and couldn't do that. So if I'm going to, so I'll probably start with table number 1, which is over there, and then do it in number order. If someone can help me teach me how to count so I know which comes after number 1. So I'm going to come over with a microphone. If you can just give a very brief summary of what you discussed so that everyone gets an idea of what was discussed. And then we'll go to the coffee break, and then you can join us for the final session, the 2020 vision, which is, again, a great session. It's when we discuss, have questions and answers, and have discussions and comments with some of the most senior logistics executives from the car makers in or responsible for Mexico. But I'm going to try and make my way over. Oh my goodness. I've just had news. There's just been an earthquake in China because I jumped from the stage like that. So session one, if you can introduce yourself, sir, and the topic and what you discussed. Thank you.
Thanks, Louis. So my name is Bill Pollock, CTM. Our topic is innovation, efficiency, and cooperation. So I'm going to make a real brief summary here, and it's more comments. It's kind of disorganized, so forgive us. We didn't have enough time, Louis. Okay, so there was some complaining here. It's difficult to cooperate when the ports are dictating. Did I hear something there? Anyhow, we know, I thought I heard. Bottom price dictates that there's a ceiling on prices. Is that correct? Or, yeah, that's... Yeah, okay. Instead of a ceiling, there should be a bottom price, I see. Okay. Price controls affect cooperation in a negative way. Between rail and road, do not compete. They should cooperate, especially in times of capacity shortages. Don't look at each other as competitors. And a word was developed here. It's called competition. Instead of competition, competition. And complement each other or complete the circle of service, something like that. Competition. I think it's a good one. Identify costs and be transparent with service provider to assist in structuring price. So that was another idea, another suggestion. Price controls, again, not possible due to changing market conditions. That's another comment. Cooperation to help train and retain employees. We're talking labor now. Sounds like there's a bunch of hijacking of labor forces around here, which I wasn't aware of. And they're all running to the higher dollar. What was mentioned also here is infrastructure improvements, even though that's not part of our think tank, but it's an important one, so we're going to mention, yeah. Border crossing improvements, of course, these are bottlenecks, obviously. Accuracy of projections, how do we do it? So accuracy projections for many reasons. One was to the government, if you're going to provide input to the government, that you should try to come up with accurate projections. That was discussed earlier today. And then projections by the auto manufacturers for shipping purposes, that it seems to create a bit of an imbalance. If there's irregularity in those projections or forecasts, that causes some problems. Match demand versus capacity, another comment made here. Transport company, cooperation innovation during capacity shortages, we've covered that. Forecasts by OEMs need to be improved, already mentioned. Dedicated services require longer term thinking. I think that was probably the best comment that came out of this table, because I think we made full circle with all of our solutions and realized that at the end of the day, you get what you pay for, and everybody out there requires customized solutions. So one customer may have different requirements than another customer. So every one of these solutions has to be perhaps customized better. And that should dictate the price at the end of the day. This will keep prices more stable and quality as well. That's it. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I was just trying to make notes from your discussion, and I like that new word, competition. So I made sure I wrote that down so I didn't forget. And it sounds like your discussions were excellent and relevant. So maybe your round table was elephant. No, that one doesn't really work, does it? No. So who's the leader on number 2? You would be on the far side, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Rocky Luna, I'm with Jack Cooper Logistics. Our roundtable was key theft, vandalism, and claims. We never really got to the claims part, but we were sidetracked with the key theft and the vandalism. So to put this in some kind of perspective, it's across all OEMs, across all the railroads, and the problem is fairly enormous, impacting everything from equipment, rail car availability, to internal cost for repairs. Keys are primarily the #1 target, with a replacement cost somewhere around $500 US. One of the OEs had almost $6 million worth of keys stolen this past year. So the problem is significant. No real solutions. Some things that would help, we talked about congestions, the time the rail cars sit on the ground, keeping them moving, key placement, hiding them under spare tires and under the glove box, but no real solutions. Approaching the government came up, trying to present a case all-encompassing of all the OEs that collectively it may be a big enough dollar amount to help with infrastructure and/or securing the rail cars better. So that was what we had.
Thank you. I'm glad that was what you had discussed, because when I saw the subject was key theft, I thought it was a kind of instruction manual on how to steal keys. So I'm glad it didn't go that way. So what comes after number 2? Number 3.
Thank you. My name is Jose Carrasco from XPO Logistics. The topic we were discussing is how to increase, or what is the trend to increase the sourcing parts in Mexico. Okay, so the definition of success that we had is how do we increase it? We have the what, is today we are in the range of 50 to 60%, and how to increase it to 80, 90%. We know that some companies have 90% as a goal, some other companies has 80%, so 60 to 90. And to do that, we analyze, okay, where are we coming from? So we are coming from 10 years ago, we were 20 to 25 more or less. Of course, it very depends on the company. What we want to see is the when, 2018, we consider we should be in the 80 or 90%. We also discuss how, or what is what we need. So we need to have a better LTL services, mill runs improvement. We also discuss on BMI, even when BMI is not going to be helping per se to increase local sourcing in Mexico, is supporting some of the parts that will probably be very difficult to have sourced in Mexico. So BMI is also part of it. We are also discussing that we are going to be needing support from some government dependencies, the US, the Mexico, other governments. So we are going to be needing some support on that. We also saw some risk or challenges or opportunities. So some of the challenges is quality. Okay, how do we train? How do we implement the new products to be produced in Mexico? We have some exposure, quality of course. Exchange rate was also another exposure. We discussed, is this an opportunity? Is this an exposure? So I think that we have some debate in there, but it's very good to consider. We also have limitation to increase participation of electronic parts. We know that now OEMs are using more and more electronic parts. And having sourcing electronic parts in Mexico is one of our opportunities and challenges, and also having sufficient transportation capacity. So this is what we had, very good discussion with the team. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So after 3 is 4. Where is 4? Ah, right in front of me. Thank goodness.
Hello, Salvador Marin from Royal International. In this table, we were discussing about the emergency freight. It's an interesting topic. Everyone seems to avoid it. Nobody wants them. Good for you, not so good for us as a provider. I think that was the main point. We also touched a couple more. As a provider, it's important for us to understand our clients' needs in order to provide a better service of level. As a provider, we also want to understand how we can improve the service for our clients in terms of emergency situations. Also, we will discuss the level of service between the providers, right? And try to accomplish deadlines that we promise, right? And also, the bottom line of this is in how to avoid it. I think everything we got in the same conclusion, just to be prepared, right, for any contingency. This can mean like weather conditions, hurricanes, climate, whatever. And then just try to have that emergency freight service in your mind when this emergency or emergency becomes an urgency, right? So I think that's pretty much the bottom line of the discussion in premium freight. I don't know if there's any more from you guys to add. The creation of value of the service. That's something that we spoke about. Just the value of the added value of the service. A lot of clients might consider a good reason to use it at some point. You know. Thanks.
Thank you. And you're right. Emergency freight, premium freight is what everybody uses more and more, but no one wants to talk about it. So number 5, where is the leader of number 5? Thank you very much.
So Louis, I promised the table that this would be much like a therapy situation, where we'd understand how messed up we are and all the pain points, and then we'd solve the world. And that's when you said, stop. But no, our quest was to, how do we reduce packaging cost? And more importantly, how do we reduce packaging-driven costs? So not just the cost of one package versus another, but the aggregate of all those costs that hit a package as it goes through the supply chains. And so we asked ourselves 3 questions. We talked about what are the biggest pain points or challenges you have within your supply chain around packaging? What are you doing to solve for those? And is there something that the industry can do or give back to assist in supporting those cost reductions? So the long list our team came up with was space for reusable containers seems to be a challenge when they're empty and having to store them on site. Not being able to move into a reusable container program because you have a long backhaul of containers traveling empty. Repacking cost, not having enough and having to repack from cardboard into expendable or reusables once they show up. The control flow, so maintaining that accountability, visibility, and proactively of the container fleet. Damage, obviously. International, asking are there ways to better cube sea containers instead of just using cardboard because you're not able to stack on top? Are there third-party support services around packaging design and helping with the PFEP process, the plan for every part process? And then dunnage complexity, having internal dunnage inside a returnable container suddenly makes it very specific and difficult to pool. And then lastly, not having a total cost of ownership conversation or having the tool to really build that business case to drive changes to reduce cost. We spent a lot of time with Linda from Audi talking about what she's doing, what Peter talked about yesterday, from controlling and tracking, and how that can be one of the potential solutions to address the control issues. We talked a lot about the pooling concept, that there are third-party providers here that can offer that, to help eliminate that backhaul and actually push the case forward. And then, I guess, from what the industry can do, there seems to be a challenge, and not to get in the middle of a barroom fight here, but between Tier 1s and OEMs, there never seems to be enough containers provided to the Tier 1 community. They may be doing batch production versus line production and need a few more days than what they're given. So is that a systemic issue that maybe we take a look at with data and provide a little larger fleet to support it? So I'm Drew from CHEP. I thought the table of 17 here did a great job, and thanks for spending some time with us.
Thank you very much, Drew. You seem to have misunderstood the concept of the round tables. We don't actually want you to solve anything. I'm supposed to have a conference here next year. What's going to happen if you solve all the problems? And where was I? Number 5, so number 6. My logistics and geography isn't very good. This is what happens if you don't have a good system, that your routes go all over the room. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louis. Hi, I'm Ricardo Alvarez with Ryder. And I was part of this conversation, very interesting, good group, great group. OEM, Tier 1s, consultants, researchers, carriers, customs brokers, logistics providers, so very rich. And our topic was cross-border. So we focus our conversation on the main challenges we're facing and the main pain points. So we had a list of what we were planning to cover, and then you just said you ran out of time, right? So, but I can tell you a lot of complaints here in this table about somebody said same border cross-border process now in 2016 than what it was in 1945. So I was thinking about that, and maybe some adjustments to the process, but same delays. So that was a consensus here in our group. Some other topics that we were able to cover and was good consensus as well is related to systems at the border, custom systems, or lack of custom system. They don't work, they shut down, and you know, they don't see or nobody see here if someone is working on solving those type of issues. One more was about dryage capacity or imbalance, going north versus coming south. We all know that it's something between 3 or 4 shipments being exported, using Laredo, Nuevo Laredo as an example, and just one coming back. So there's an issue for carriers, for manufacturers, for service providers that we're all facing. One more that was interesting, but we were not able to go in deep detail, was over-the-road transportation versus rail or intermodal. So we were not able to touch on that, but it was an interesting topic for the group. So hopefully in our next event. Same thing with, I throw that comment to the table, and I was sure it was going to be a good one. It's about foreign trade programs set up by the government, or is the government really a facilitator, supporter, or an obstacle? And just by looking at the faces, the answer was it was clear. It's you know, even though we were not able to touch it in detail, it was clear. But that's basically what we were able to talk. And again, it was great conversation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ricardo. And number 8 was cross-cultural.
It's actually number 7, but we're
Number
not, you know,
7. Maths is not my
it's, you know, all these numbers. Hello, my name is Christiane Meyer with Penske Logistics, and our table talked about cultural considerations for success in Mexico. And the first item that we discussed was communication. How to communicate in a country, obviously with a different language than English or German, or in our case, we had a nice diverse table, Japanese, and how to communicate with nationals that actually believe, I learned this here at the table, that they should be speaking the other person's language. So we talked about communication and the fact that we need to make it comfortable for people to actually commit to certain amounts of deadlines to get a real answer. We talked about the meaning of the word no, and that normally in Mexico, nobody likes to really say that. And how can we get around that to get a yes or no answer? Right? We then went into communication and also motivation of employees in a collaborative culture as such as Mexico, and the importance of having a mission for every employee, stating the mission, making sure that besides, you know, salary and benefits and all the good things that we like to do for employees, that we make sure they're praised and that a mission is clearly stated, that they know their place actually in their organization. Last not least, we were just getting into the meaning of at stakes and the history of Mexico and what that means to how time is perceived and the view of short-time tactical goals versus long-time strategic goals is when it kind of interrupted us. So I would like to give a big thank you to this table. Special thanks to the Mexican nationals on our table who taught our gringos a lesson on how to be more successful here in Mexico. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christine. So is there have I missed any, you can see how good my maths was, have I missed any tables or numbers? I think there was one table was going to be about why England are going to win the World Cup, but no one joined that table for some strange reason. So I hope and think that you had good discussions. It seemed that there was great groups, a good mixture of people on all of the groups. It seemed that you had good discussions, and I think we'd like you to continue the conversations and feedback some of the information that you collected. If there's any way we can help you as a magazine, build reports on on what you've been discussing, suggestions for next year's conference in Mexico. But many of these issues are global issues, so please feedback some of your discussions and give us any ideas on what we can do to support you to move these discussions forward, whether it's to help you work through AMIA or INA or AIAG or US-Mexico Chamber of Commerce, or anything we can do to support these discussions. And the only other suggestion is when I say it starts at 2 o'clock, you start at 2 o'clock, and then you won't worry about me stopping you at 3 o'clock. But I hope you enjoyed those think tanks. I hope you understood the value of them. Please join us for a coffee break, and please be back in the room at 3:45. Don't complain at the end that you never had a chance to ask questions. So back in the room at 3:45 for our final 2020 session. Thank you.